welcome to SCS WiT's International Women's Day 2024 podcast, a podcast celebrating the achievements of women in Singapore's tech industry in commemoration of International Women's Day 2024, which is held in the month of March. I'm your host, Amanda, one of the EXCO members of SCS's WiT chapter myself, and this is the second episode of a three-part series, each featuring a senior female leader from the Singaporean tech industry, sharing their insights on what it means to be a woman in the local technology space, with the aim of inspiring fellow women in tech and encouraging allies to play a part in making the tech industry in Singapore inclusive and vibrant. So, in episode 2, our guest will be Jasie Fon, Pink Identity's Regional Vice President of Asia, and today's topic is managing work-life balance as a mother. Now, without further ado, let's hear from Jasie herself, who I'd like to invite to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. Amanda, thank you so much for having me on this call. It's quite exciting for me. So as you mentioned, I have been in tech for a while. So I have been in this industry for over 30 years now, currently in a company called Pink Identity, focus everything around identity management. Cybersecurity is really the area that I am in right now. But prior to this, I have been in organizations like IBM, Microsoft, Workday. I had my own business and I sold the business to an American MNC and then coming back to a regional role all over again in the last 7 years. So in the midst of doing all this, I have a chance to get married and have 2 kids. I think it's really good to be able to share with everybody some of the experience that I have, and hopefully that can inspire mothers and aspiring mothers to achieve a happier life, and fulfilled life as a mother as well as professional as well.
Yep, certainly. It's very meaningful for you to be involved in this conversation.
Yes.
And I think I can't wait to get started. So I guess without further ado, let me ask you questions regarding how you manage work-life balance in the tech industry as a mom. So firstly, what inspired you to delve into this topic of managing work-life balance in the tech industry as a mom for this podcast in the first place?
Yes. Now, I think work-life balance has been a buzzword for a very long time. In fact, in many ways, it has been overused, and it kind of, from my perspective, create an illusion that we all don't have balance between work and life, especially in technology space, right? So I would think that work-life balance really can mean different things to different people. For some people, it means equal time or priority to personal and professional activities. For some people, it means that you have the flexibility to manage your personal life during a work day without having the hassle of getting permissions or to explain to your bosses or your peers on the activities to others, right? So for example, as a parent, as a mom, it's very normal that you need to attend a school event, and right after the event, you could just catch up with your work, later part of the day. In the old time, this may mean that you have to fill up a form to take leave just to attend a 2 hours event. And these days, with work from home and with the flexibility of work, it tends to give us a lot more of this flexibility, right, as a mother, to be able to do multiple work together. So really, it's really important for us to understand what's the definition. Is it really about having fair share of time and the priority, all about having the kind of flexibility or even to the word of convenience, in your day-to-day? And also, what is very important, which a lot of people kind of miss out, is which stage of your motherhood are you at, right? If you have very young children, less than 5 years old, you tend to probably be spending a lot more time physically with them. Versus if you have kids who are young adult, they don't need you as much, but you need to be around, and it's more of a mental support that you need to provide, and being in the presence that is important. So I think that's really important. And honestly, that's regardless of industry. It is really about being a mother. Is whether you're in tech or you're in medical or you're in retail hospitality, it shouldn't really matter. So what inspired me really is that I feel that being in tech for more than 30 years and that I have 2 young adult children right now, I've gone through the journey from being a young mom to young kids. I'm a friend, I'm like a consultant to my kids now in their life. I think this probably experience can help to inspire mothers and also aspiring mothers to achieve a happier and more fulfilled life, both as a mother and also professionally as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think definitely it's important how we have to recognize that there are some things that are universal about being a mom that is applicable to the tech industry. And I guess there probably are some specific challenges as well, but in the end of the day, every mom, I think, can relate to each other about their experience.
You are
Yeah.
right.
So let's move on to the next question.
I have
So
to
how would
say, Amanda, sorry to interrupt. I have to say that as a young adult like you really can empathize with mothers, so you probably will make a very good mother in time to come. So it's good to hear.
thank you. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Right.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. How would you describe the unique challenges that mothers in the tech industry face, if at all any?
Okay. I think in the technology industry, it is known, right, that the ratio of men to women is about 3:1. Yeah, it's about that is so overall women is about 30% of the workforce for most of the technology companies. And actually that's the reason why this become an important topic in terms of work-life balance, right? Because the job description, the requirement and responsibility of the role will never take gender into consideration. And rightly so, because that shouldn't be the case, right? You know, we should be based on our capability, not just because I'm a woman. Therefore, I'm given a little bit more excuse, yeah? So capability should be measured regardless of gender from a diversity perspective. But having said that, as women, we tend to struggle a little bit more with the roles of caretaking, right? And when I say caretaking, it's not just about being a mother to take care of our children. In Asian context, especially, we take care of our parents. When you're married, you take care of your parent-in-law. You know, your spouse, your husband typically leave you to help, right? Sometimes as a bridge to the parent-in-law as well. And with aging parents on both sides, typically the woman of the household take on a lot more of this caretaking responsibility, right? And having said that, it's not just from the personal perspective. At the work context, it's the same. As women leader, especially, we are typically a little bit more nurturing, right? We typically take up more mentorship roles and coaching role, right? Not just to our staff, but also to peers. So in many ways, it's very hard to balance because emotionally we do caretaking, we take care of the well-being of the people around us and nurture our team as well. So therefore, from that point of view, this is where I think the challenge is where to what extent are we able to multitask and do our job well, right? In our day-to-day, not just professionally, but also when we are back at home. So, and also in the technology space, especially because I come from a vendor environment where I'm taking a regional role that take care of over 8 countries. We travel a lot, right? And this means that we not just have lots of back-to-back meeting, we have to take into consideration of travel time. And IT especially, right? A lot of roles are regional in nature, whether it could be you are a project management role where you deploy projects across the region, and you know that Singapore is always a regional hub in many organizations. So project team or the consulting team, you know, could have to travel country to country to deploy projects, IT projects, or it could be security in nature or business application in nature and anything else. So travel become a very common requirement in technology space as well, right? And on the other hand, not just when you travel for the regional, because a lot of the tech company comes from America or from US headquarters. What does this mean? It means that we are probably on calls 24/7, right? We do a lot of midnight calls because we have to tie to the US time, right? Or we do a lot of early morning call before US go to sleep. So you feel that, you know, you never have enough time, right? You have a day job, you have to do your calls, and not only that, in technology, because it's so fast paced, there's always new jargon, new things that's happening. Like right now, we're always talking about Gen AI, cyber security, you know, so many more new things that's happening. In our space, we tend to read a lot more, right? We need to be in the know all the time. We need to network a lot as well. And when I say network, means that you're not just in the industry peers, but among your customers, among your partners and all. All this means time, right? So how are you going to then balance, the time that you're spending really at work or for self-study, for self-improvement because of the fast pace of the technology that you are in. And at the same time, also about being able to do your role well, right? So I think the solution to this really, from my point of view, right, being around for such a while, is really the fact that you few areas. One area is, let's forget about the mother's guilt. A lot of mothers fall into this trap, right? That we are forever guilty. We always blame ourselves for everything, that we are not good enough, that we should have done everything. And you should forget about it, because that only stress you out. And there's no positive outcome at all, other than maybe more gray hair, some more wrinkles. It doesn't help. So I think the first thing that as women, as mothers, we have to tell ourselves, don't get guilty over things. You make a decision of doing something, you live with that decision, you live that journey, rather than say, I should have, because whatever it is, you will always be blaming yourself for something. So I think that's number one. Be aware, right? The awareness portion is actually grossly lacking. I think this is something that I see in a lot of women, regardless of your age, regardless of your level. So I think that's point number one. Point number two, from my point of view, is that you got to learn to get help. Don't be so proud, right? To think that we can do everything. I think as women, if we can't do everything, make sure you get help. One thing I personally learned is that we need to get our spouse to help us, right? In our case, get our husband to help us. Parenting is team sport, It is not just a mother's job. It is not just the mother who do the nurturing. It's also the father's role to tag team with you and to support you, to make sure that the child have a good environment to grow up safely and healthily, right? So I think we have to learn to get help, and I think it is important that our spouse recognize that really this is both parties' responsibility, rather than saying that, hey, you're the mother, you should be doing this. I think that's a very important part of what we should be working towards. I strongly believe that when you have a very strong and healthy and connected marriage, you tend to build a much more resilient and happy kids. So I think that's very important. The third thing that I see a lot is, when it comes to the point of work-life balance, right, is the art of planning. Now, in our role, in technology especially, most role, I'm not saying every role, most role will have your own period of so-called busy period, right? For example, if you are in end user environment, you know that your busy period is during project delivery period, or it could be during audit period, right? That you have a lot more work to do. In a vendor environment like mine, our busy period is usually during quarter closing, So we should plan early. If you know that you are going to hit towards your busy period, make sure you plan early. If your kids are young, arrange for play dates. Make sure that you keep them busy, for example. Arrange for help, right? If you know that your kid needs to go for a certain concert or a certain performance that you do not want to miss, but at the same time you are into your busy period, make sure you get necessary help, whether it's your husband or your mother or your father or your sisters or whoever, to just step in to support you. I think that's all about planning early. Obviously, we can't plan when do we get sick or not. There will always be emergency that we couldn't plan ahead. But you just imagine that if majority of the time you're able to plan, then the chaotic period become lesser. You have less stress, and you will manage much better, and you'll be happier, and your kids can be happier as well. So I think planning is really very, very important from my perspective, in order for us to have a good balance, in terms of your life.
Yeah. So Jasie, what I'm hearing from you is that in the tech industry specifically, there are some unique challenges. You mentioned a gender ratio imbalance, and that's something I think also permeates on the educational level as well. I do see that whenever I walk into courses in the information systems building, for example. Aside from that, you also mentioned that IT roles are quite regional in nature, so that actually imposes on some of your personal time because you might have to take calls at weird hours, for example. And then lastly, you also mentioned that it's a very fast-moving industry that really demands quite a lot from you because technologies are coming out every few months or even every few weeks. And you have to really track these developments and make sure that your company is operating in a way that's up to date and it's agile as well. So yeah, I definitely resonate with everything that you're saying. It's something that I think a lot of people in the industry observe. But what I liked is that you actually went on to mention how to overcome some of these issues, to forgo mother's guilt, to ask for help from your spouse, and to plan in advance so that, you can properly juggle your responsibilities as both a mother and an executive in a tech company. After hearing all of that, I have to say that I really respect everything that you've gone through and how you've been able to learn such like interesting and insightful lessons from what you've gone through. I think maybe a follow-up question to everything that you said that I have is that how do you maintain and establish boundaries with the company specifically? So with co-workers or with superiors, for example. Do you have any tips for that?
Okay. I think it's important to recognize that this topic is not new, and as executive, as responsible companies these days, we do recognize the importance of supporting family life, right? Regardless whether you are a mother or a father, right? Or even if as single, you need to respect and support the employees to have a good life and work balance. I think that's important. So from a business perspective, from an executive perspective, I think it's really important that we have to work with our managers to be clear of your personal definition of what is work-life balance to you, what's important to you. As I said earlier, right, different people look at work-life balance differently. Your definition may differ from one another, and also especially as a mother, right, if you really look at it as a mother, you realize that there are different stages of motherhood, right, as I mentioned earlier as well. Young children needs you more, and therefore if you are having young children, you need to work out with your management what is more important to you, what are the areas that or time and the period that again plan earlier, right, that no matter how busy the work is, I will prioritize my child over this. And your management needs to recognize it and support you. I think it calls for you to be very mature about and confident about who you are and have that open discussion with your manager. In the event that your manager is not understanding and cannot accept that you're going to have a certain boundary because of your priority, in Singapore, you can do a few things, right? You can always work with the HR if you've done everything and you can still see your boss is not supportive. Or, as I say, right, as a woman, we should always be confident in ourselves and make the decision to take a step back and see whether is that the right place for you, is that the right environment for you. It does not matter if it may mean that it's a wrong timing, right? It could be a wrong timing, that the role required you to be there very intensively, where at the same time, your role as a mother at that moment of your motherhood it takes a lot of your personal time off. So I think we should not go back to the mother's guilt, right? And also, yourself the best. If it happens that it's not the right timing, not the right environment, know yourself the best and take a certain decisions, right? So I think those are the things that you need to set your own boundary. What's more important to you? So that's important. The other thing I think is also very important, not just with the organization, but it's also on your own, right? That you need to practice self-care. A lot of mothers, especially young mothers with young kids, right, they tend to forget about caring for themselves. And once you stop caring for yourself, you will end up burn out faster than somebody else who's taking care of themselves, right? So I think it's so important that if as a professional adult, you should come first before your child, before your spouse, because if you take care of yourself, you are being responsible, then you can then take care of your child and husband and whoever that's around you. So I think that's also a very important part. And most organizations today, especially even in technology space, right, recognize that too. right? And will come up with good HR policies and stuff like this to ensure that you are given the right kind of support needed for you to practice some of this self-care. I think that's also very important from my perspective.
Great. So thank you, Jasie, for providing some very, very practical tips on how to establish boundaries with your coworkers or your managers, making sure that people are aware of the fact that they should be mature and confident, having open discussions with their manager, and reassuring, I think, a lot of women that in Singapore, for instance, there are other ways of overcoming this, like working with HR and considering whether the place that you're working at is the right environment for you. And lastly, of course, practicing self-care. I think that's very, very important as well for preventing burnout. With that, I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much, Jasie. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It's a pleasure to be here to share some of this experience that I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, listeners, for listening, and we hope that you have been inspired by our guest, who is actually one of the members of our SG 100 WiT list, which is a list that has shortlisted notable women in tech in the Singaporean industry. So she's a very accomplished speaker, and we've been privileged to actually listen to her insights and have her accompany us today. So thank you for listening. Hope to see you for the next and final episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.